Good morning. My name's Emily Koski, and I'm the chair of the Budget Committee. I'm going to call to order our regular committee meeting for Thursday, October 12th. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to verify the presence of a quorum.
Councilmember Payne.
Present.
Wansley is absent. Rainville.
Present.
Vitaw.
Present.
Ellison.
Here.
Osman is absent. Goodman is absent. President Jenkins is absent. Chavez.
Present.
Chugtai.
Present.
Johnson is absent. Vice President Palmisano is absent. Chair Koski.
Present.
There are 7 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. Today, we will continue hearing presentations from city departments on the mayor's 2024 recommended budget. On the agenda today is the Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Department and the Performance Management and Innovation Department. We will begin with a presentation from the Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Department. Here to present is Director Prince Corbett. Welcome.
Yes, good morning, and thank you, Chair Koski and the council members. Just 1 second here. Thank you all so much. This is day number 19 for me on the job, and glad to be here. So I'm here to present the mayor's recommended 2024 budget for REIB department. And when we go through this, it's looking at what are our priority investment areas. And I want to start this off with every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this very moment. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hopes of a better life, and some have lived on this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. I acknowledge and honor the Dakota people who were the original stewards of this magnificent land of vibrant waterways of Minneapolis. I pay respects to their elders, past, present, and wanted to take a moment to consider the treaties by tribal nations that entitle non-Native people to live and work on traditional Native lands. I recognize and acknowledge that much of what we know of the United States and Minnesota today, including its culture, economic growth, and development, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans, their descendants, and their ascendants who suffered the horror of the transatlantic trafficking of their people through chattel slavery, Jim Crow, and other harms that continue today. We are indebted to their labor and their sacrifice, and we must acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and the resulting impact that can still be felt and witnessed here today. We want to acknowledge our collective debt to the indigenous people of this land whose labor was forced and exploited, the Chinese immigrants who built railroads that allowed for westward American development, Japanese Americans whose properties and livelihoods were taken from while they were incarcerated during World War II, and migrant workers from the Philippines, Mexico, and Central and South America who have worked the Pacific Northwest farms and canneries. After the 2020 murder of our dearly beloved George Floyd, many organizations across the country really seem to have woke up from a deep slumber in which they jolted out of their bed with an epiphany of, hey, racism is real here in America. Global organizations and government jurisdictions across the country responded to the racial reckoning and the political and societal pressure by investing in racial equity, diversity, inclusion programs and staff. According to the job site Indeed, job postings with DEI in the title jumped 92% from July of 2020 to July of 2021, the company reported, and a LinkedIn survey found that chief diversity and inclusion officer positions grew by about 170% from 2019 to 2022. However, in 2023, due to economic and political landscape and divisive federal court rulings, we are seeing racial equity, diversity, and inclusion roles slowly disappearing. While at the same time, this body of leaders decided to make a huge investment into race equity by lifting up the Division of Race Equity to actually being a Department of Race Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, where our mission is really to promote racial justice, equity, inclusion, and belonging throughout the city of Minneapolis through development of culture building and community engagement. By the data, we know that Minneapolis as a city and Minnesota as a state has some of the worst racial inequities and disparities in our country. It is the vision of the city of Minneapolis to eliminate racial disparities, and it is the mission of the city to dismantle institutional injustice and close the disparities in health, housing, public safety, and economic opportunities. You will see from this, our organizational chart, you will see how the REIB department is currently set up. And at the top, we have our director and deputy director. Below them, to the left, it is color-coded in blue, our Truth and Reconciliation Program managers. And these two positions are ARPA funded and expected to end in September 2024. And to the right and in the green, you will see the staffing for our LGBTQIA division, which includes the LGBTQIA Equity Program Manager and Trans Equity Coordinator. Next to them in the solemn pink, we have our Human Trafficking and Sexual Exploitation Prevention Senior Advisor, and next to them are our program managers. And then to the furthest right, you will see our administrative division that includes an administrative analyst as well as an administrative assistant. The mayor's recommended budget aimed at working to integrate racial equity concerns into all levels of city policy and practice is just about $1.8 million to our department. Our goal is to improve the lives of residents by dismantling systemic disparities and institutionalized racism across three primary areas that you can see here, or that I like to call three investment areas. Promoting racial justice, equity, and inclusion throughout the city through policy development, culture building, and community engagement. Proactively combating human trafficking and exploitation through the implementation of comprehensive strategies that address complex dynamics and the intersections of various forms of oppression and interconnected issues. And then supporting the LGBTQIA plus Two-Spirit community and building out a division in our department to create and promote an inclusive space for people of different sexual identities and gender expressions, especially those of color. You will notice that the 2023 REI budget is about $1,055,000 more than 2024. This is due to the infusion of about $900,000 of ARPA funding into our 2023 budget. The work of our department has an internal and external focus. The internal focus is supporting the enterprise of all departments, as our enterprise focuses on advancing racial equity through policy and systems change where employees feel included in a space where they can show up as their authentic selves. There is also an external focus of our work, focusing on racial healing that needs to happen within our communities, as well as ensuring that our racially, ethnically diverse communities that have been harmed by the city, particularly American descendants of slavery and Native American communities, are addressed. REIB has 9 full-time permanent employees in our department, and we currently have 3 vacancies. Reflected in the 2024 budget is the reclassification of a program manager to a deputy director position, and this position is currently being filled by our interim deputy director. We are actively in the hiring process for a permanent deputy director, and we have the deputy director position posted, which will close this Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So if anybody watching would like to apply, please go to the City of Minneapolis Jobs and look at that job posting. Another vacancy that we have is for the LGBTQIA plus equity program manager, and we are starting the interview process as the application just closed about 2 weeks ago. The third vacancy that we have is for our administrative assistant position that was reflected in the current organizational chart, and right now currently holding the FTE vacant as we consider restructuring of our department and what are the business needs of the department. One of the challenges this year has been of our staffing, and as you can see, currently 1/3 of our permanent FTEs are vacant, and up until last month, nearly half of permanent FTEs were vacant. The Trans Equity Coordinator had been vacant since January, and our new Trans Equity Coordinator, Mars Kaminsky here, started this week on October 10th, so we are working on staffing up our department. Now I would like to take you all through our program priorities or investment areas and just updates on projects that we will be working on. And this is where we will be investing staffing resources and our funding resources over this next year in 2024. Under promoting racial justice, inclusion, and belonging, we have 5 key program areas. Earlier, I shared that our work focuses on internal stakeholders and then our external stakeholders as well. This slide is color-coded, and the orange are the projects that reflect programs focusing on our internal work, and then the purple focusing on some of our external work. And those 5 program areas are the Racial Equity Impact Analysis, our Strategic Racial Equity Action Plan, the Equity Report, Anti-Racism Curriculum, our Strategic Racial Equity Action Plan, and then Racism as a Public Health Crisis. On July 9, 2020, just about 6 weeks after the murder of our beloved brother George Floyd, the Minneapolis City Council passed a resolution declaring racism as a public health emergency. But from 1619 to 1730, Africans who were enslaved, brought to this land, treated as property, and received very little medical treatment. And in 1830, scientific racism was born into this country when scholars at the time claimed physical and mental differences between black bodies and white bodies, supporting the notion of white supremacy and superiority. In 1840s, James Marion Sims, known as the father of gynecology, exclusively experimented on black women bound to surgical tables by chattel slavery physical force without anesthesia. And then in the late 1800s, scholar W.E.B. Du Bois conducted epidemiology research, citing that disparities in mortality and morbidity were not attributed to notions of biological racial inferiority, but rather attributed to social factors contributing to black health risks and health disparities, which today we know as the social determinants of health. I wanted to take you through a quick timeline to demonstrate that racism is not a public health crisis, but rather racism historically has been embedded in public health. In the resolution that was passed in July 2020, there were 10 action items listed in the resolution that included dismissing cash bail in the city of Minneapolis, providing support to the Racial Equity Community Advisory Committee to conduct and implement an internal evaluation of the city charter, as well as city policies. Another action item listed in that resolution is building a workplace culture that promotes racialized repair, cross-cultural relationships, upholds the sacredness of caucus spaces for building community, and shifts the burden of addressing racism of black bodies, indigenous bodies, and other racially diverse and melanated bodies. REIB has been in partnership with the Health Department to reduce racial and ethnic disparities around our internal enterprise work and service delivery. As an enterprise, we have an understanding of where we are as a city in terms of racial equity, developing a shared language, and how we embed race equity into our everyday operations. REIB and Public Health have identified 3 phases to how to do this work. Last year and this year, we focused on phase 1. Which is organizational assessment, reflection, and training with 2 key objectives, which is assessing staff knowledge, attitudes, and beliefs regarding racism, and increasing anti-racism and racial equity knowledge amongst employees. Moving into 2024, we will be building out phases 2 and 3, which is operationalizing racial equity and community engagement and capacity building. The major objective of phase 2 is to embed racism as a public health emergency into various departments. And then for phase 3, assessing our community priorities through a needs assessment and increasing partnerships and capacity. The enterprise-wide survey that was just administered a few months ago was part of phase 1 of this initiative. The team of REIB and public health employees working in this area are in the process of obtaining a data analyst to go through the survey, develop a detailed finalized report that summarizes themes, and develop recommendations and action steps and strategies based upon the feedback that we received. With respect to phase 2 and 3, the internal team have developed some potential action items, and I had the opportunity to meet with that internal team this week. Being only 19 days into this position, I have not had the opportunity to meet with Commissioner Chaplin, and I know this body of work in order to operationalize race and health equity across the enterprises requires partnership. So I'm mindful and don't want to dive too much into phases 2 and 3 without meeting with Commissioner Chaplin so that we are really moving on the same page. And this next slide around potential performance metrics, the internal team of people working on this project have developed some current performance measures around the number of city staff who completed the racial equity survey and then the number of departments that participated in the racial equity survey. On the slide before you, you will see potential performance metrics related to racism as a public health emergency, body of work including the number of departments with race equity plans, the number of staff who complete anti-racism training, and the number of policies and/or programs created based on community needs. Once again, being 19 days into the job, this has to be in collaboration and a partnership with the Department of Performance Management and Innovation, and I have not had the opportunity to meet with the Director Hasbargen to strategize on how our departments will partner and collaborate, but that will be one of my priority meetings in looking at performance metrics. The racial equity impact analysis was created to support city decision makers to consciously bring considerations of racial equity into our operations. Some potential performance measures are the total number of race equity impact analysis or RIAs submitted per year, the number of RIAs submitted by department, and then the number of RIAs submitted for budget proposals. One of the challenges of the RIAs is that due to the inability to track RIA submissions, we do not have accurate data on the number of RIAs submitted within the past year. RIA should be submitted with requests for council actions and for appointed boards and commissions when they are assessing racial equity impacts in their policy recommendations. Our team is currently reviewing the RIA process, and we will be making process improvement recommendations to the RIA. Our team have already developed some initial recommendations, but before deciding on the final recommendations, we do want to be in collaboration and partnership with the city clerk regarding the RCA process. In addition, we will be partnering with Human Resources to strategically consider the workplace equity impact analysis that was developed by HR and how the race equity impact analysis could be used in conjunction together. And for the racial inequity report, which is another investment area, I'm not going to go too deep into the racial equity or inequity report, but the purpose of this initiative is aimed to ensure that programs, practices, and policies create and sustain the resources necessary to address racial inequities. The thought concept behind the report is to inform REIB's annual policy priorities while encouraging transparency that creates standards of accountability, and this will have to be done in partnership with the Performance Management and Innovation Department. With regards to racial equity reports amongst government jurisdictions, one of the things on our radar is the Public Sector Racial Equity Dividends Index that the Center for Economic Inclusion will be releasing later next month. Over the summer, local jurisdictions had an opportunity to participate in the index report, looking at 70 proven racial equity and inclusive economic growth standards across 10 categories. They will be releasing a report of all the jurisdictions that participated in this report, and it'll also help establish a baseline for some of the metrics that we could be looking at when considering measuring racial equity impact with regards to performance measures and indexes. So we will come back more with a more detailed update on this body of work. Our next investment will be in anti-racism training with the goal of really increasing staff knowledge around racial equity and anti-racism. And this anti-racism curriculum is currently being developed with a goal, I would say, of having as many employees complete anti-racism training or race equity training across the enterprise so that we are all moving from the same shared knowledge, same shared understanding. And potential performance measures are the number of staff who complete the training, learner satisfaction rate, and then the post-training assessment results. So the curriculum is being developed, and this will be another investment area moving forward into 2024. Our other bucket area or investment areas around supporting LGBTQIA+2 spirit community. This includes supporting our Trans Equity Council, our Transgender Equity Council, Trans Equity Summit, and then the LGBTQIA Health and Wellness Directory. Last week, we signed and executed a contract with Roxanne Anderson and Anna Meyer of Our Space as event planners for this year's summit. Roxanne worked with Council President Andrea Jenkins to start the Trans Equity Summit 10 years ago. Rox has held a seat on the city's Trans Equity Work Group and was on the steering committee before it turned into the Trans Equity Council. Anna has been involved in the Trans Equity Summit in a variety of ways over the years. Anna catered the summit through Cafe Southside, volunteered to assist with volunteer planning and coordination, and was a holistic healing practitioner for the Summit Healings and Aesthetic Space for the last 2 years. For the 2020, there was $15,000 of ongoing funding in the 2023 budget, and it is estimated that an accessible summit, rough estimate, will cost about $58,000. And just being mindful that this is reported to be the city's second biggest facing event, serving over 400 attendees and growing annually. Our next investment area is in the LGBTQIA Health Directory. So this health directory, we are in the process of contract negotiations with an organization to deliver the health directory. And with the health directory, there are The $70,000 for 2023 is one-time funding, but our team will be working on this into 2024. So once the contract is executed, we're able to work with the partner and be able to share a little bit more about how this work is going to be moving forward. And I would say some of the challenges that have been presented when our team has discussed this work has been like, this really should be a collaboration with the Minneapolis Health Department and figuring out what that collaboration looks like, identifying who will be responsible for maintaining the directory, and then sustaining the directory after it is built out is some of the challenges that we identified and will be working through. Combating human trafficking is another investment or priority area for REIB. On June 20 of 2023, in partnership with the Minneapolis Health Department, we hosted an event called Addressing the Intersection of Substance Use and Human Trafficking, a convening for awareness, collaboration, and action. The event was made possible due to the financial support from the Minnesota Department of Health and a local nonprofit organization called The Link. There was growing enthusiasm among stakeholders, the Minneapolis Health Department and Minnesota Department of Health to secure additional funding for further initiatives aimed at implementing the recommendations detailed in the report. The ARPA-funded Upside Initiative, which is a partnership between the Family Partnership, Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center, the Link, and Breaking Free. This year alone, Upside has made contact with over 1,500 individuals during their outreach activities. So 1,500 individuals across the city were touched by this ARPA-funded initiative, and most of the individuals were staying on the streets or in encampments, living with friends and family, utilizing trains, buses, shelters, and emergency shelters. And the city, through the senior advisor, played an active role in collaborating with stakeholders under the leadership of the Etienne Story, a survivor-founded and led organization throughout the state that is contributing to the successful approval of the state's first dedicated funding of $500,000 specifically allocated to provide supportive services to victims of labor trafficking. So with our human trafficking and sexual exploitation prevention project, it's really a unique value position to offer help, resources, and options for the whole community. This program is ARPA funded and will cease in 2024 without additional funding, and we are tracking the number of people who have been interacted with and touched on the streets through the Upside program. As shared earlier, 1,500 individuals thus far since the program has started. With that being said, stand for any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Director. Thank you for this thorough presentation, and appreciate you, Day 19, coming in and having so much information for us. I am not seeing any questions. All right, nope. Councilmember Payne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, 19 days is a very short time to solve racism, right? No. One of the things, I worked really closely with race equity before joining council. I worked on what predated PMI, so I saw those intersections. And one of the big challenges is always, what does that body of work look like where the focus is internally on the enterprise? And then what does that body of work look like when the focus is external? Because racism doesn't just exist within, the institution. And I'm just wondering, at this, it's probably less 19 days in question and more decades of experience question. Where do you see the right balance of that focus internally versus externally?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Councilmember Payne. I would say on the internal level, it's collaboration and partnership. Doing this work is not going to be REIB alone. It's not going to be PMI alone. It's not going to be HR or Finance alone, but really working in collaboration with all of the departments. I see REIB as being kind of the subject matter experts around race equity and how to infuse that across the whole enterprise and being able to support departments. I would say a vision that I have for the department is where our staff or program managers are kind of liaisons to each individual department and figuring out what that structure will look like, so that every department kind of will have a point contact person in REIB for consultation and really to help establish a framework. And it's not I don't want to get in the way of the work that departments are already doing around race equity. But sometimes, with that subject matter expertise and thinking outside of the box around different initiatives, for example, looking at race equity and bond market issuance is something that I had never thought about, but it was something that I came up in a previous role that where like in finance, people may not think about like how to center race equity in bond markets, and I don't even know, but like I'm not the subject matter expert in bond markets, but can bring in the racial equity lens kind of along that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council Vice President Palmisano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Corbett, I share a lot of Councilmember Payne's concerns, but I was also here when we did the racism as a public health emergency resolution, and then it looks like we also had modified it. That was the work of Council President Jenkins mostly. And I'm curious, it was striking for me to see your slide with so much of our work being focused internally, right? And just the one piece externally. That really spoke to me in a way that I had seen this work as being a little bit different. And so I'm just, I'm curious where on the priority list as you start to sink into this job are some of those more external facing things, such as, and I know that we are working hard on this, and I think doing a good job on this, about directing money towards small business development for BIPOC owners and eliminating some of the affordability gaps for BIPOC people in our city. I know we have some very targeted programs that way. I know that some of those have had more success than others. Additionally, I know that in that original resolution, it talks about increasing the availability of youth development programming particularly for youth and young adults that experience a disproportionate exposure to violence in their communities, with a focus on BIPOC young adults. Third, I know that we were working to develop and implement an annual report with racially disaggregated data on the health of BIPOC communities. And that would include recommendations for actions to keep on working on that in our communities, outwardly in our communities. So I'm curious, what of those externally facing pieces do you see most urgent or excite you the most with the team and the resources that you have available to you right now?
Yes, thank you, Chair Koski and Council Vice President Palmisano. Within this, one thing, it was a mistake on my behalf, was not mentioning our Truth and Reconciliation program and initiative. And we just did a update around the Truth and Reconciliation process a few weeks ago, and we'll be coming back in front of the COW with further detail. I see that as being a huge initiative externally that impacts community and residents in developing a Truth and Reconciliation process and framework, as well as potentially a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So that's internally, like with REIB, where a program that we will own. And I would say externally with regards to businesses, public safety, et cetera, this is where the collaboration and partnership between CPED, Office of Public Safety, and all other impacted departments are going to be critical and vital for us all to be on the same page in partnership, in collaboration, moving lock and step together so that we are addressing. And I would say, once again, like on the external piece, like around business development, allows CPED to be like the experts like within that space, but thinking about how to infuse like race equity within that. And also recognizing even with businesses, one of the other initiatives that I'm involved in right now is our inclusive cannabis work group. So looking at how that is coming up in the future to help ensure equity and looking at social equity applicants and different things like that, working in partnership and collaboration with the state of Minnesota. So a lot of the work around race equity really involves true collaboration between public sector, private sector, philanthropy as well, so that whatever the initiative is, folks are coming together to look at kind of that initiative and working together to address the inequities.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Corbett, and appreciate you again being here, day 19. And I love hearing the word collaboration. You've said it multiple times, so look forward to seeing the fruits of all of the work that you'll be doing. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me end it with this. If no one has told you that they love you today, REIB loves and appreciates you.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have a presentation from the Performance Management Innovation Department, and I invite Director Kira Hasbargen to give that presentation. Welcome.
Welcome. Oh, thank you. No. Chair Koski, Budget Committee, thank you very much for having me today. My name is Kira Hasberg, and I am the Director of Performance Management Innovation. This is my 27th day, so not quite 19th, but my 27th working day here at the city. I'm excited to present to you the Mayor's 2024 recommended budget for our department. So first, an overview of the department. What do we do? Really distilled, the Department of Performance Management and Innovation helps the city innovate and transform lives. You see our structure here. Over the last couple of years, we've elevated Results Minneapolis to a high-level performance management program. We've created an evaluation function, and we really want to become a department that the city can count on to deliver innovative, inclusive, and impactful solutions. Our work has expanded. Last year, the body approved ongoing funding to hire 3 analysts so that the department could continue our work around reducing racial disparities, supporting the development of alternative public safety responses, and leading innovation projects across the city. This staffing level provides the department with the resources needed to meet workload demands and continue to innovate and do new things. We are committed to continuing our work at a high level, and this org chart and sort of with those 3 additional positions provide us with the opportunity to have that capacity and enable a more resilient and sustainable model. So I'll just go through quickly what the positions do. The first is the Chief Resiliency Officer. Resiliency, as the time in which I've been in the department, is something that I believe the department and the city needs to be really baking into all that we do. So while there is a position to do that, it's really figuring out what that looks like. So we are doing it in our everyday and not relying on a position to advance that across the organization, to collaborate, to do things like that. So the CRO is really focused on helping support the resilience conversation, building and implementing effective resilience strategies, and then leveraging the 100 Resilient Cities Global Network and its platform. Our program managers, so that's many of the previous staff whom you've seen, who are really the ones who support the work and co-create solutions for the city. They scope, manage, and facilitate projects. They monitor and analyze benchmarks. They engage and provide advice to departments and project teams, and they are really focused on building and maintaining strong relationships. We're an internal consultancy. We rely on the departments and your trust and support to move these works forward and wanting to partner and work with us. So that's an important part of all of our staff's really roles in that. Analysts, our analysts are really focused on leading research, surveys, and data analysis, analyzing and interpreting results and reports, helping to assess policy, support program performance strategies, and make recommendations, and then creating action plans, reports, and writing case studies to help provide informed information for you all. So we really ground ourselves in an understanding who first, are we doing the right things? And then how are what we're doing making people feel? And so to really think about that around our priority objectives, what we want to make sure is that elected officials and departments have the support that you need to make data-driven and evidence-based decisions that advance city goals. In the council meetings, right, that I've heard of recent, right, other budget committees, it's like, where's the data, right? We want to see the data that is showing that this is going to do X, Y, and Z. We want to be able to understand what impact our investment is making, and that is a primary objective of performance management and innovation. Also, improving the delivery of city services to enhance residents' quality of life and eliminate racial disparities. It's not just what we're doing, right? It's that how we're making people feel, how their everyday engagements and interactions with city staff, city programming are having on their day-to-day. And again, focusing in partnership, right, with REIB, eliminating racial disparities. And then lastly, our third priority is to support internal stakeholders in taking a strategic, reflective, human-centered, evaluative approach to their work. Strongly believe in continuous improvement, right? Looking back and seeing how what we did actually worked and what can we do to improve upon it. So how do we do that? This is our approach. Again, what I've mentioned is we are an in-house consulting team. We are really here to help the city address complex and pressing challenges. Our collaborative approach really advances innovation and helps move the dial on equity and resilience. We rely on partnerships, working alongside staff, members, stakeholders, organizations to really help deliver those meaningful results. So what we first really want to do is carefully explore the issue and its unique challenge, right? Really understanding what is around all of it before we just really dive in. Then we don't need to recreate the wheel, right? We want to understand what has worked before, that may be the experiences of city staff, stakeholders, residents, customers, and then what are others doing, other peer communities, others in the around that is working. Then with that, taking that information to co-create and work with our partners to leverage new relevant techniques that deliver meaningful solutions. Again, we want them to be solving the problem that is before us. The other thing is we provide structured project management to help drive outcomes. That's the key support that in our project teams with the program managers, they're able to provide in our different work groups. And then lastly, we want to maintain a data-driven culture that demonstrates results. So we're not just saying that we're making those changes, we can demonstrate it and figure out how we're going to be able to show that impact in a real in a tangible way. So some of our achievements this year, one of our Department 2021 framework goals is continuous improvement. And what we really mean by that is positive, meaningful, and sustainable systems change for the benefit of our organization, in particular, those at a disadvantage due to complex long-term systemic issues. So in response to a council directive in 2019, PMI began work to identify and design alternatives to police responses. In the winter, we received funding from the body for a series of unarmed safety recommendations that included launching the Behavioral Crisis Response Team to handle mental health crisis calls via 911 instead of police, embedding mental health professionals in 911 to assist with call triage, increasing mental health training for 911 staff, shifting additional non-emergency calls from 911 to 311, and establishing an overnight shift for traffic control to handle complaints instead of police, and lastly, running a media campaign to increase awareness of the city's unarmed public safety solutions. And so again, the BCR was launched in 2021. You've heard through some of the other updates, sort of how the other programs are going. There are two that are still in process for us right now, and that's the shifting of the 911 calls to 311, and then also embedding the mental health professionals in 911. And I believe Joni Hodney, when she gave her presentation on Friday, really talked about what the sort of the training looks like and how that could be of support given the conditions right now that the 911 staff are sort of operating around their mental health. So the Behavioral Crisis Response Program has grown since it initially launched its services in 2021. In 2022 and 2023, the program expanded its hours of operation and increased the numbers of vans in service. And so that was really great. Received a lot of really amazing national press coverage just on what this looked like as an alternative to police response. And then we have some statistics there on what they've responded to. So really supporting, 7,600 incidents, no injuries to recipients or responders, and then serving the entire city, every precinct, every ward. Earlier this summer, we successfully transferred the program to neighborhood safety. So this is important to us, just like the traffic control pilot, which became a permanent shift as part of the general fund in this year in 2023, is the staff in performance management innovation are not the subject matter experts. We believe that we are here to collaborate, co-create, and really bake something that then departments and program staff are able to move forward. That's what enables it to be sustainable. That's what helps us be resilient. And so we were very excited to watch that successful partnership between now Neighborhood Safety and Canopy grow, and they have taken that on and are doing some modifications to the vans with the ARPA money that they were provided. So adaptation and growth is another one of our achievements. As I've mentioned, our work has evolved. We have transitioned from a division to a department. And so why does that matter? It really allows us to align resources to outcomes, and really now is providing us with the opportunity to assess our why, how, and what. So in this brief chronology sort of what that transition has looked like and how we've been growing to meet need, from 2008 to 2016, Results Minneapolis operated as the city's performance monitoring and tracking system. It centered around a couple of different things. So it first centered around Department Results Minneapolis, so for those of you who don't know, and it was department level reports and meetings, so focusing just with the departments, going through some data, and really talking about ways that they could leverage that or recommendations for changes. There was also city goal results, so that connected to the high-level city goals and then how all of the performance of the departments were in that. And then there were roundtables. So the roundtables were very interesting. This is where we started to see a lot of that cross-enterprise collaboration, where they really focused on community-wide measures, started bringing in members of the public, other leaders, to really talk about issues that we were seeing across the enterprise and how we could use data to inform those conversations. In 2016, the I-Team is launched, and so launched through a Bloomberg grant. Bloomberg Philanthropies had started innovation teams in 2011 with the belief that cities thrive when they use innovative approaches to solve challenges. Using tools like data analysis and human-centered design, the innovation team brought perspectives also from inside and outside City Hall to deeply understand the root causes of problems and help the city implement new policies, practices, and improve the lives of residents. Results Minneapolis was also going on at this time. 2019, the I-Team merges with the Strategic Planning and Analysis Division to create the Office of Performance and Innovation. There were no changes to their FTEs, and they continued to move innovation projects and Results Minneapolis forward. And then last year, 2023, PMI became a department under the Office of Public Service in the new government structure, and was allocated those 3 additional FTEs that I mentioned. And so from really performance management to innovation to systems change, the department really has now focused on creating an evaluation function, continuing to advance that human-centered design, and setting up training and figuring out ways to amplify resident voices. So our program and staffing summary, there's been, here's the numbers here. Our internal charges have increased due to rent, IT, and SIF allocations being charged to us directly as a department. Our non-personnel costs have remained flat with external funding sources, so Bloomberg Philanthropies grant funds. As those funds are exhausted, we'll be able to identify what would be our needs as a growing department. And then we can better understand how our operating budget will support core services and activities that we provide. We do currently have 8 vacancies. So right now, a department of 1 of myself. This really provides us with a unique opportunity to really take a step back, reimagine, and rebuild. So I think there's been a very nice natural progression, which I showed in my previous slide, of the work, right, that the department has done before it became a department. And now is really our time to step back and look ahead to the future and think strategically, right? What are we going to look like in the future? What are the skill sets that we're going to need to do that? And how can we potentially adapt and change those services? So I'll talk about that a little later and sort of what I've thought through in my first 27 days. We are actively recruiting, so those are out. We are recruiting for the analysts that just closed. I think on Monday or Sunday. We just posted for program managers, so that position, you can also find it on the Minneapolis Jobs website. We're posting for program managers, and then we are gonna go through those recruitment processes and see what that looks like to sort of start building the team back up. All right. So what does that mean, right, then, for some of our risks and some of the lessons learned, just generally as I've had a chance to look over some of the team's historic documents, start some informational interviews, and I was lucky enough to come from a department. I came from regulatory services before moving into this department, which got to work with performance management and innovation quite a bit, so was actively involved in the traffic control pilot and Results Minneapolis. So what are some of, again, our risks? I think I am building the plane as we fly it. I've jumped in, again, I'm leveraging my experience, what I'm finding, the conversations that I'll be having with you all as council members and my fellow department heads, to really figure out what are we looking for when we look 3 years from now, where do we want this department position to be, what does that look like? With that, it's going to really enable me to connect operational excellence and innovation. We're not going to be able to do things the way we used to. When I look at sort of the risk, right, limited capacity, we did lose a tremendous amount of historical knowledge, right, on the team. So there had been a lot of movement on the team and people being promoted and working in different roles and being able to go through that natural growth process with the department. That is something that we lost, and I'm looking forward to in the recruitment process figuring out who has skills, so some of our candidates who can bring a different perspective and are still going to be able to support us in moving that work forward. The other is a generalist approach, and I think it's both an opportunity, right, and a risk. The program managers and the data analysts, again, we are here to partner with and co-create. We are not experts in every city process. So one of the things, again, is that we will spend the time when we're doing that research really understanding what is going on with the departments, but we do generally have that higher level approach. The third is team development. Again, it's going to be a very new team. So we won't just be onboarding a couple new people and having them fit into the fabric and the culture of the city and the team. It will be an entirely new team, and so really needing to spend that time developing and building that trust amongst the team before we start going out again to do that work and build trust within the enterprise. Silos, not shockingly, there are silos across the city and in the team itself. When I look at how the team was structured before and what that looked like, I think that's more evident now given that we're looking to fill the positions, is that people were very focused on singular projects. And then lastly, sort of thinking about what is decentralized analytic capacities and project coordination. Again, we partner with departments, we partner with stakeholders, and so we have some very large departments who are able to work at different levels, and then as you know, there's some very small departments who may not be able to really support that analytic function where we talk about needing to have the data to do something with it, and then to support that project in the program manager and that project management coordination. Building trust, we'll be doing that, right? I think that's going to be important before people will want to work with us, right, and understand the value that we're bringing. Making sure that our why is very well articulated, because staff, it's not just going to be the program staff who are working with us, but the staff in the department, the staff in the city really need to be prepared for that change and to be able to understand why we're doing it and what that's going to look like. And hopefully be able to, in the last one, promote our successes and capabilities. I think if we look at amazing programs like BCR, the late night traffic control pilot, there may be very few city staff who are able to talk about the value and what that's doing as we consider our engagement and the relationships we're building with our residents. And I think that's a great opportunity for the team to really figure out how to co-partner and help elevate, right, and really make those great successes known to everyone. And then also really working with our allies, really figuring out who is there to help support and help us move our work forward, why we, again, build trust and start working through a new team. We'll be making changes and adjustments along the way. I think that we are primed for this opportunity to reinvent ourselves, and explain our value proposition, and move forward as a high-performing, high-functioning department. So next, I'll get into our program updates. And so what is our mission? Performance Management Innovation collaborates with residents, city departments, elected officials, organizations, community partners, businesses, state and stakeholders to push for bold new ideas and create a culture of data-driven, community-centered service delivery in Minneapolis. So what have we done to that end? So looking at the goals that the department outlined in its 2021 strategic framework, which I'm looking forward to reevaluating, and I'm excited too in my brief time so far in this role, like 3 departments have already reached out really wanting to go through their frameworks and develop new goals and measures. So that's really exciting to see that, again, that need exists in the city, and departments are excited to really start that process again. So the first 3 goals I already talked to you about. They were listed earlier as our strategic priorities. The others are really creating a positive, meaningful, and sustainable systems change for the benefit of our organization, in particular, those at disadvantage due to complex long-term systemic issues. We want businesses to have clear and effective avenues to collaborate in the work of building resilience. And then resilience is prioritized and embedded in all work across the enterprise. much like Director Corbett's, feedback earlier, we are all interconnected, right? And so really focusing on these complex issues and how we can all collaborate and come to the table together is going to allow the city the ability to govern more equitably and effectively. Our approach will embed, again, resilience in all of our work to make sure that that is there. And like equity, there's never going to be a box that we're going to check on being a resilient city. We will continue to develop ongoing processes and programs that promote resilience, innovation, inclusive design, and a data-driven culture. So how have we demonstrated this to you in the past? So of note, you'll see sort of there the list of projects that the department has completed. I have our metrics there. I'll go over those in a moment. But PMI has launched pilots that are now core to the city's critical services and programs. So a couple that I'll call out, in 2017, the Business Technical Assistance Program. So we were sort of you're talking about how are we helping small businesses, right? That's a pilot program that the department worked on to help, which is now a full program. The small business team, where it was not a team before, right, worked on that pilot to really now connect specifically with small businesses to help them understand and navigate that process of doing business in the city and why that's different than a major corporation. Black Business Week, something in 2019 that the team helped to pilot. Results Minneapolis in 2020, again moving that to a high-level performance management system. 2022, the late night traffic control shift, which is again now ongoing in the general fund, where they are providing service 24/5. And then in 2023, BCR. So how are some of the ways that we're understanding if we're being successful? I think we have the opportunity to think of more qualitative and outcome-based metrics as we move our work forward. But what the team had been focusing on was really the number of innovation projects that they completed per year, the number of pilots that remained permanent, right, which when we think about that sustainability and resiliency, right, what is standing the test of time? And those are some of the examples I gave you earlier. Are they holding workshops, right? We want to, again, to be resilient, support staff in doing this work on their own, right? Where there is internal consultants to provide resources so that, again, it can be embedded in what the department's doing. I'm looking again at feedback. So figuring out how we can start surveying those who are using our service and using our tools. Is it helpful, right? Is this something that is useful to you? Are you seeing great outcomes with what we're providing to you? And then, again, who is using tools after we meet with them, right? Because, again, we want to teach a person to fish, and that's really, for us, what we want to be focusing on. So speaking of that, our main focus areas, so we have 4 focus areas that support collaboration and meaningful outcomes. Through our work, my goal is really to position the city of Minneapolis as the preeminent authority in local government transformation. Right? We want to be that city that others are reaching out to, right? We want to be the ones that are leading the way. And I think a lot of the department's work, right, is really heading in that direction and figuring out, how we can continue to move that forward and, again, really be that beacon. So the first is research, is one of our focus areas. Research, what it really does is help to generate a foundational understanding of systems. Through this, we're able to seek out root causes and uncover unmet need. We want to carefully explore the issue and its challenges, so really, again, dig in. And investigate the landscape to understand what others have done and how we can best support our partners. Through this, we also seek to deliver comprehensive, informed recommendations, so you have something to consider. Performance management, really investigating how well and why a program is achieving its outcomes. So the first is we seek to create an advanced that integrated performance management framework. So really one of the priorities for 2024 is a back to basics and bringing back Results Minneapolis, really providing departments who, I believe it was 2020, who redid their measures at that time, now that they can sort of see, having gone through 2 more budgeting processes, what that's going to look like and how could they use data in a different way to help tell their story. We want to accelerate the use of citywide performance strategies, so not just the measures themselves, but then how are we using that the evidence and analyzing it to make sure that our processes are the best that they can be, and are going to be resilient, right? They're really going to stand that test of time and are going to be able to adapt as we pivot for different reasons. We want to, through performance management, also focus on aligning strategic planning and resource allocations, right? So we hear this a lot, so show me, right? So you say this will help you with this, well, where's the data to help demonstrate that? Or if something goes away, what is the impact there? And it's really the data through performance management that helps us with that. We want to, again, partner with all city departments to develop meaningful metrics, to really encourage the use of learning, management, advocacy, and storytelling. And it's really that storytelling. I think sometimes people are reluctant really to talk about how well their things are doing, but I think that is really what we want to demonstrate, right, in being responsible and amazing stewards of the taxpayer dollars. Like, this is what your money is doing, right? This is what your tax dollars are helping to support. Community engagement and resilience, so connecting the enterprise's work with the community to ensure that every voice is at the table. So we really want to, again, identify unmet need and use those insights to create change. I want to engage with stakeholders, right, all stakeholders, to collect comprehensive feedback, really co-create inclusive community-centered solutions. So this is really understanding, right, in sort of the steps leading up to it, it is somewhat, sequential there, is really understanding that to then co-create with our actual customers, right, what is going to be useful to them and understand what they need as opposed to what we think they need, right, which is sort of that part of doing the research, and that's when we would need to, adapt what we've come up with. Facilitate through that engagement, facilitate educational opportunities to provide ways, and I think this is also going to be a partnership with many of our other departments who are very engaged, NCR, for example, with the community to ensure that we are doing it in the most effective way, and then being transparent. Lastly, innovation. Designing, validating, piloting, and supporting the implementation of creative, inclusive, outcome-based ideas. So again, bridging the gap between all the stuff we've talked about before, what we think might work, how we're going to measure if it does work, what the community has said will work, right, based on the ideas that we brought forward, and then again, actually implementing that idea. And there's an abundance of great ideas across the enterprise, and we can generate them from research, performance management, community engagement, city staff, and really in that innovation, working to create and then move forward the most effective idea. This also focuses around improving infrastructure so that we can increase civic engagement, promoting the use of high-quality evaluation, right, again, looking back on how things actually went. And I'll say, the process generally, right, is not iterative, right? We very much want to get that insight into the issue, get feedback, incorporate it, right? Try it out, and see how that goes, and that each time we engage with someone is giving us the opportunity to reprioritize and refocus the work, right? To make sure that it is the right solution, not just cooking it up and then sending it out, really doing that in a process and learning from it and figuring out what we can then apply from one project to another, and still go through, again, that iterative process. As we build trust, I think, we are really also look to support advocating for budgetary investments, actively maybe going to a different department or a program to share ideas that we may have on things that could be helpful for a program redesign, and then really, again, piloting initiatives that promote outcome-based service delivery. It really are those high-level outcomes that we are focused on. So looking forward, and again, in my time here, my 27 days in this role, I've taken some time to really take a step back and think about what could performance management innovation look like as we move forward. Again, 5 years from now, what are we known for? What is our reputation? And I think, again, the first is that we, again, are an in-house consulting team and are really focused at its core, right, on helping the city address its most complex and pressing challenges through a collaborative approach that's really going to focus on outcomes. We believe, right, that it is essential that you, as the elected body, departments, business owners, our customers have information, and that you all, right, as you consider making, different decisions, right, are able to do that in a way that is data data-based. These are the 4 values when I take a step back and think about what will we ground ourselves to so that we can create a meaningful and sustainable impact across the enterprise and with all those who will come in contact with us. I think the first is data-driven decision-making, right? Strategically using metrics to evaluate alignment with our actions and goals. So sort of that high level, what are we trying to get to, and really baking in that data. Outcome-based service delivery. So this is, again, focused on how people feel, right? Centering that impact on how it's going to feel to any of the customers, the staff, right, who are engaged with what we are providing. Equity, again, intentionally engaging with underrepresented communities to remove barriers, create opportunities, and work towards equal outcomes. And then continuous improvement. I think really driving the resiliency conversation and continually identifying ways that we can do things better is going to be core to how this department moves forward. So what are some of the ways in which we can do that? So, I talked briefly about some of, historically, the services that the team has offered. I think when I take a step back around those focus areas, these are them. I won't go through them in detail, but, looking at ways in which we can, again, support the work is in these specific sort of things that would come to mind around research, performance management, engagement, and resilience, and then innovation. So as I move forward, I'm looking forward to continue to gather information. We'll be meeting with, as I mentioned, department heads, you all, to really understand what's out there, what the department has done, and sort of get a good handle on that. I think then developing a department vision and a strategic plan, really planning out, especially as we're going to be onboarding, potentially 8 staff, is we're going to have to be very planful, right, about what that's going to look like so everyone is set up for success, right? Just dropping, someone who, started a week ago into a major project will probably be very stressful for them, stressful for all of us, so really figuring out what that is going to look like, and yes, still offering and providing services to the enterprise, but also doing that in a very strategic way. I think then evaluating the capacity to support our program areas and create innovation. That's why this recruitment processes, this is very well timed to really think about what is the skill set that we need, right? And really trying to go find that right now out through our recruitment processes. And I think then aligning program areas with work streams, and launching business development efforts. I think I've talked to some departments who didn't really know what the department, what PMI did, and that, it hurts. So I think what we really need to do is be telling our story. We need to market, right, what we're doing and provide and share what the value proposition is and working with us. Really then after that, creating a work plan. So what is, again, our work going to look like, and what will our measures of success be? And then all of this, again, to move forward with continuing to deliver meaningful impact to residents, to drive continuous improvement and change. Through the whole time, it will be iterative, right? We will be reframing, refocusing, and resolving challenges as we move all of this forward. So transfers, $251,758 was transferred from Department of Neighborhood Safety to Performance Management Innovation for alternative public safety response pilots. This is, again, ongoing work. I mentioned the 2 pilots that are still in process, so to continue to support that work. I have resumed conversations with 911 about embedding a mental health professional in 911, and so we'll really continue those conversations and see where that work has ended up. So with that is all I have for you today.
Thank you, Director, and well done in day 27. Appreciate it. I have Councilmember Chugtai in queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Director. Really appreciate your presentation, especially as a department of 1 right now. I wish you the best of luck as you work to restaff your department. My question is about slide 12, if you want to go back so we can all see. I just see a discrepancy between your 2024 mayor recommended budget at 1.5 million and your 2024 plan, which accounts, that discrepancy there is around $330,000. Can you help me understand what's going on there?
It's the transfer from neighborhoods safety to PMI for the ongoing pilots.
But you received that money, right?
Yes.
The way, oh,
I'm sorry.
yeah, please, thank you.
Chair Koski, Councilmember Jagtai. To that discrepancy between the 2024 plan and the mayor recommended budget, that transfer from neighborhood safety, money that was originally in the coordinator's office, moved over to neighborhood safety. We're just rectifying that. It's going to move back in the 2024 budget. So that wasn't part of the 24 plan. So you see an increase from the plan amount to the mayor recommended budget is because that's going to move back in 2024. The additional amount is the allocation models, those internal service charges. Because this is a new department, those weren't applied in the 24 plan. So the IT fleet, self-insurance charges, and the IT model, those are all now being applied in 24. So picking up those internal service allocations and then that transfer, that's the increase you're going to see in 2024.
Okay, so that, the 250 accounts for a portion of it, and then there's a remaining 80,000, that's the transfers, and,
It's the IT, the rent, self-insurance charges that are just kind of catching up with the structure of the new department being on its own. Those just weren't there in the 24 plan.
okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I am going to put myself in queue unless anybody else, oh, Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the great presentation. Could you just elaborate a little bit on the thought process of having the mental health professional in with the 911? I think it's a great idea. I'm just a little curious about
Yeah.
how we could do that.
Yeah. Sorry, let me talk to Joni. There we go. Yeah, Chair Koski, Councilmember Rainsville, so thank you for that question. Again, my understanding, and I'm happy to provide more after this, just because am still coming up to speed on where that ended and sort of what the intention. My understanding is that it is to embed the mental health care professional in 911 so that they can support both answering calls. So if, for example, it is a distressed person who may be better served by speaking to a mental health care professional on the phone, they would be able to take over those calls. They could provide support to the dispatcher. So potentially the dispatcher, I think, they can sort of patch in. The dispatcher is so comfortable taking that call, but they would like the support of having that mental health care professional there with them. They can also, my understanding is, help to support repeat callers. So it, again, not that the call, it is still very important to 911, but they do have, my understanding, is repeat callers who may be taking up the line. And I think given their present staffing capacity for some of those calls where they, don't want to, they still want to engage with the caller, may want to transfer it over to someone so that the 911 dispatcher is able to take in those priority calls. And then the other supports, being at the 911 center, would also be to provide care and to the dispatchers after a difficult call. And I think Joni, Director Hodney, gave a presentation on Friday just about what that's feeling like emotionally, the burnout and the conditions. And so initially, right in my conversation with her, that would be something they would hope that embedded mental health care professional could provide, is to really to help the 911 dispatchers decompress after difficult situations when they're starting to feel very burned out after calls.
Thank you. That's a very good answer. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. I am going to put myself in queue here. I just have a few questions. Thank you so much, Director. I appreciate this presentation. I just want to, on page 11, which is talking about some of the projects, and maybe you don't have this, and I'm happy to, if you're able to send an email to us later, but I'm curious to know a little bit more about the completed 2023 projects and the in progress. There's 14, which is significantly more than we've had in the past. And so do you have a list of what those projects are?
Yeah, I do have a list, and if that's something that would be helpful for me to provide afterwards. I say it was a file that, in my research and understanding the work of the department, was provided at the end of 2022, but had been updated as early as 2023. So I did go through the list and my understanding of what was still active, and did make some best guesses at what was completed. So the two completed projects that you see there for 2023 are BCR, and then training the mental health. The additional mental health training to the 911 dispatchers, but they did go through and they all received a certification for doing that. I did confirm that with Director Hodney last week. And then it is the transfer of BCR that officially happened, I think, early this summer. The in-process projects, so again, I can read them off. It's, again, hard to say. I'm hoping in my next steps, right, are to talk with departments, speak with sort of, again, you all as the body to see what we believe, right, had been assigned to this, was in progress with the department. And so it's things that we heard from earlier, like the inequity report, looking at working with, this looks like a project around business starts and growth, a culture change project, a community engagement RFP, working on their building out the evaluation function and human-centered design training that they were hoping to bring to departments. Also performance training, updating the website, working on the legislative directive around public safety space inventory, going back through results. The plan, my understanding was, it was that first cut in 2020, 2021, and then to go back to departments to be like, how'd they work, right? Do you want to change them or not? And to go through that is what I believe to be that. Working on supplier diversity with finance, that other sort of in-progress project that I talked about, which was the transfer of non-emergency calls from 911 to 311, so figuring out what that next step may look like. Looks like there was something around transportation demand, and then continuing the work on What Works cities. So some of those may not have been projects, they may be closed. In my understanding, it was, again, I will say a best guess, but in my initial looking through that and what I could find, it did not appear that they had been completed.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. And I just want to clarify, you had said this, maybe I'm just misunderstanding, but I thought you maybe said bringing back results Minneapolis.
I'm sorry. So yes, I think it as a back to basics, and so Results Minneapolis, figuring out what it looks like to be a comprehensive, enterprise-wide comparative management framework. So I think the work in what that looks like in, again, going back to the departments, right, in the bringing back is like, are these the measures, right, now that you know how you would be using these in budget requests, right, what does that look like? And then the other thing that the team, in my understanding, having worked with them, was, and what is it going to look like to visualize that? Right, because right now they're in the strategic framework, like Word documents, and I think when we really think, for me, right, about what a comparative performance management framework looks like, there's likely ways to make it a little bit more visual, and to focus it on something that happens recurring, right? And how will we also report our data? So, right now it's voluntary. Departments may decide how they want to report their measures. I think a lot of other cities, right, will do it on, and we were before with, city results, reporting it in, printouts annually. And so I think that is a place that my understanding is the department was looking to get back to that. And then again, still using the innovation projects, but really focusing on an integrated report.
So it's not necessarily bringing the tool of Results Minneapolis back, but going back and looking at where we left off and moving forward from there? Is that my understanding? I just want to, because I can't remember when the last time Results was actually used. 2000, too long ago.
Yes, Tchaikovsky. I think it's, Tchaikovsky. I think it's, yes, it is, it's bringing, I think we're saying the same thing. It is bringing it back such that we are using it in intentional ways consistently and going back to the work that the team was trying to build.
Like a launch pad. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's helpful for me to understand. Thank you. Another question I had was the focus areas. Mm-hmm. I think that's page 12. I know you're new, 27 days here. So, but just curious to know from your kind of initial assessment, of these 4 focus areas, is there one or two that you're going to lean into more, or is there an emphasis on any of the specific focus areas before one or the other?
Mm-hmm. Tchaikovsky, I think that's a really great question, and I think right now it's still, early to tell, right? I think it's going to be building out what's, in that strategic plan, what's on the table and what we need to be building for with staff. That said, I think the performance management piece is key, right? We need to have the data when we consider really innovation, right, and what that's even could look like, is we need to have a basic understanding and foundation of how we are going to collect that, right? I think we've heard it in Director Corbett's, presentation as well, like where's the data on these things? And we talk about as well, what do we have disaggregated data? Like, do we have all of these things in which we want to do? So I think, to me, focusing on performance management, connecting it to the budget, right, figuring out what that looks like and bringing that work, continuing to move that work forward is foundational. And from there, right, we can consider engaging with the community on specific things, right, and working on understanding, redesigning, and moving forward more innovative ways to do things. But I do believe we will need that baseline of understanding, like, where are we right now?
Okay, that's helpful for me, because I understand you have a few, roles that are in process of hiring, and so that helps me understand too what those roles are specifically going to, like the program manager and the analyst. So.
And we recruited for a business process data analyst, and so that is more heavy on the use of data analytics, data visualizations, and really displaying the data in meaningful ways. So that is the position that closed on Sunday.
Great. Okay. Very helpful. I appreciate the thoroughness and just the additional information. I am not seeing any further questions, so thank you so much for being here and giving this very thorough presentation to us. Thank you. All right, I'm not seeing any further discussions. At this point, I'll direct the clerk to file those presentations. I also just want to note that both Councilmember Goodman and Councilmember Wansley wanted to be here, but they both are under the weather today. So. Our next Budget Committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 16th at 10 a.m. That day, we are set to hear from the Office of Community Safety and the Emergency Management Department. And with that, we've concluded all business to come before the committee today. Without objection, we stand adjourned.